Hello everyone. Like the title says today, we're going to take a look at my HPZ400 workstation. We've covered the HPZ600 in another video, and this machine is the little brother. However, I've equipped this machine with a more powerful Xeon X5690 CPU, one which the Z600 doesn't support. Also paired with this is 24 gigs of RAM, an RX 484GB, and this machine boots from a SATA SSD, but it's locked to SATA 2 speeds. We are running Windows 7 Professional, which Escape From Tarkov still does support, so let's check it out. Before we get into the numbers, I have a couple disclaimers. First off, all footage is taken in Tarkov PvE mode. This is the mode that I play in and will be why the raid load times seem so low. The following footage is example footage and not the footage used for benchmarking. The in-game settings were all set to low with no FSR being used and frame rate limits of 60 FPS were in place. Due to internally recording gameplay, the frame rates will be lower in the footage than the actual benchmarks. I would also like to point out that I believe most of the 1% and 0.1% lows were heavily affected by stuttering caused when looting a container or body. These lows were also affected by zooming in with scopes greater than 1 times optical zoom, but that is a true flaw of this hardware being shown by the benchmark. Let's start strong with the best this is going to get. Factory loaded in 58 seconds and showed an average of 60 FPS with 1% lows of 50 and 0.1% lows of 44. Being the smallest map, it's no wonder that this is going to be the best performer on this system. Customs took 1 minute and 14 seconds to load into raid and showed average frame rates of 39 with 1% lows of 5 and 0.1% lows of 4. The heavy percent lows here are a stellar example of the stuttering caused by looting, and this trend will continue on a few more maps. Woods loaded in 1 minute and 40 seconds and showed us the larger maps naturally will take more time to load. We get averages of 45 frames per second with 1% lows of 6 and 0.1% of 4. Scoping in with a zoom scope on this map really takes a heavy toll on the frame rate. Interchange takes 2 minutes and 8 seconds to load in, and we are hit with an average of 45 frames per second with 1% low of 31 and a 0.1% low of 19. This map has the best lows for larger maps so far, and this can be a huge difference when trying to tackle Killa. Ground Zero took 2 minutes and 18 seconds to load in, and despite being a small map, I believe this is due to the large number of loose loot around the map and larger vertical structures. We see an average of 45 frames per second with 1% lows of 6 and 0.1% lows of 5. Reserve loads in 2 minutes and 31 seconds, and we see averages of 55 frames per second with 1% lows of 11 and 0.1% lows of 6. The higher frame rate here can be attributed to the smaller size of the map. Shoreline takes 2 minutes flat to load and comes in with an average of 33 frames per second, lows at 23 and 4 respectively. This is bordering on the lines of barely playable, but it can be done with patience. Lighthouse was quick to load in at 1 minute and 49 seconds. However, it sits in the same boat as Shoreline with frame averages around 29 with lows at 17 and 9. This is barely playable. Labs does surprisingly well, loading the level in 58 seconds. The frame averages are 60 with lows of 50 and 44. It's a shame I can't play here often enough to take advantage of the good frame rates. Streets is the last map we have, coming in at 3 minutes and 56 seconds to load. I'd run this before off of a spinning hard drive and it took over 20 minutes to load in. Frame averages are 24 with lows at 7 and 2. This map is unplayable, often having graphical glitches. I've even loaded in with no arms before. Overall, I would call the results here playable. This would not be an ideal experience for most, but it is enough for me to enjoy, and I like to think of it as a challenge. Maps like Streets of Tarkov have proven this system isn't up to the task, even though this system surpasses Battlestate Games' outdated recommended specs for Tarkov. Perhaps if I brought the RAM up to 48GB, I could experience better averages across the board, but for now this system is more than ideal for me.